Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all enjoyed my last video. So guys, in this video we are going to continue our tour in Lagos. However, today's tour is taking a slightly different route in that today's video is going to be educative, fun and beautiful all in one package. Trust me guys, you guys are going to enjoy it. So I visited the former slave port of Badagry to learn about the 400-year history of slavery. I visited the Mobile Slave Relics Museum and took a boat to the point of no return on the Gbereful Island. I know that some of us either have no knowledge or little knowledge about the history of Badagry, being one of the routes that benefited from the slave trade conflict between Port Novo and Dahomey at the end of the 18th century. Don't worry guys, this video is going to school you. This video is going to educate and teach you what was skipped in our school syllabus. So guys, keep subscribing and liking our videos. Hit the notification bell. And guys, remember, I love you guys and I bring you the best. Enjoy.
Now, where we are is called the Brazilian Barraco of Syracuse. But locally, on the Third Milan Bridge, I'm sure you did that this morning. So when you're driving on the Third Milan Bridge, that water, this is still the same water. So this water will take you to Lagos Lagoon.
Yes.
Internationally, it's called Lagos Port Novo Lagoon. People hardly talk about it. Okay? But during the transatlantic slave trade, don't forget that Nigeria was referred to as the slave coast. Nigeria and Benin Republic. Okay, there was nothing like Benin or Nigeria at that time. But this part of the continent, okay, was referred to as the slave coast. And we have Ghana, known as Gold Coast. We have Pepper Coast. We have Grain Coast. We have a Ivory Coast. So each area was identified with the products that the Europeans get in abundance. So here, in present-day Nigeria and Benin, what Europeans got in abundance were human beings, enslaved people, our ancestors that were taken away. So I tell people, when we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, the place to visit is actually Nigeria. Because even when we talk about Benin, at Wida, the slave port of Wida, majority of those they were taken away from the slave port of Wida, of course, they are also from every ethnic group, but majorly Yoruba. When we talk about the slave port of Badagry, many from different ethnic groups were also taken, but majorly Yoruba and the slave port of Lagos. And don't forget, we also have Calabar. And there are many other slave ports on the coast of Nigeria that people don't even know about. But do you know why people are talking about Wida, Badagry? It's because we talk about it. And the people in those areas talk about what they have. We have Lekki. It was an European, a Portuguese that was called by that name, and he was a slave trader. Now, we don't really know the original pronunciation of his name, but the Yorubas call it Lekki. Okay? And he was a slave trader at Lekki. And we have the old Lekki port after Dangote refinery. But nobody is talking about all that. Then we have Lagos waterfront. Around that marina in Lagos Island, Ereko area, area where we have Victoria Island and the rest. There were many slave ports. Idumota, Isaleko, there were many slave ports on those axes. But nobody is talking about them today. So if you don't talk about all this, how will people know of some of the events that took place? That's why I like to talk about it, so that when black people in diaspora are tracing their roots, so that they can be able to identify. But eventually, if we know about those places, they may do their DNA and eventually find out that from a particular place and not another place. So there are many slave ports on the coast, but some of them have been forgotten. Some of them are not really forgotten. But when you go to some of those villages, the old people there, knowledgeable people there, maybe the kings, the chiefs, may be able to tell you or take you to some of the sites. Right. That certain things took place in their communities those times. That is why I tell people when we talk about slave history, especially from the Benin Republic and Nigerian point of view, is deeper than what you've read in books. So there's a slave port here. Now this is a river, a lagoon. Can you see these bushes on the other side of the fence? Now the reason why those bushes are there is because that part have been dug out because there used to be an anchor point whereby the small boats, the canoes, are being anchored somewhere around there. That's why the place was dug, or the name their owner gave to them. Human beings were referred to as products, as commodities. So they don't have personality. The personality of their owner is their personality. They don't have a religion. The religion of their owner is their religion. It is what their owner want them to be that they be, because they are their owner's property. A slave is a person that is the personal property of another person, and him or her does not have his or her own will. They don't have their will. They can't decide anything. So, but Sheikh Abbas' case was different. His owner, Abbas, sold him to an European by the name of William, who took him to Brazil. But then in Brazil, Mr. William realized that there was something unusual about him. Rather than selling, he took him to his house and made him a domestic slave. He was working in his master's house. He treated him well. He taught him how to write. He taught him how to read. And that time, it was illegal for you to teach your slave how to read and write. You can go to jail for it. And the man treated him well. But when he became a young man, Mr. William met him and said, look, I want to give you your freedom, but I want to have an agreement with you to work for me. And he responded by saying, sir, I'm your slave. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you. So whenever Mr. William go to do his business, which was slave trading, he usually take him around. Consciously, he was teaching him his business. He was teaching him his trade, slave trading. Because this man eventually became a slave trader working for his masters. So Mr. William determined that, decided that he doesn't want to be coming to Africa, that he needed someone to represent him here. And he sent this man back to West Africa. And when he came back, he settled down at the colony of Lagos, where we call Lagos Island today. Around Ofin, he still have descendants there, he still have houses there, but he left Lagos Island to come out, settle down in Badagry. And when he got to Badagry, he became one of the major middlemen between the European and the African chiefs. But don't forget, through Mr. Williams in Brazil, he learned how to speak English, Dutch, Portuguese, and Spanish, which was unusual. And another characteristic of Sheikh Abbas was that people trust him easily. Eventually, he became a major middleman, transacting business. School children, when they come and they hear the story of Sheikh Abbas, they feel so bad. He was once upon a time an enslaved person. Why did he choose to do that? Well, I cannot speak for him, But the point is this: history is for us to learn from, so that we are not supposed to continue to make the same old mistakes. When he got to Badagry, he dominated everyone. The question is, how was Sheikh Abbas able to dominate? All the people might say, one, because he could read, he could write, he could speak many European languages. I made a copy of one of his handwriting. You see it in the first slave sale. I made a copy there for people to know that he could read, he could write. And according to oral history, we are made to understand that he was very, very intelligent. When he do business with you, you smile. You make a lot of money. He makes more. But he was so smart that he doesn't even have to cheat you. So people want to come to him to do business with him because they make more profit doing business with him. He was a loyalist. If you do business with you, he becomes loyal with you. So because he was a loyalist, naturally people became loyal to him. In the year 1895, the British made him the owner of Badagry. He ruled Badagry from 1895 till his death in 1919. He ruled this town for 24 years. 1919. He died in 1919.
My great-grandfather was born in 1911.
1911?
Yes, my great-grandfather.
Wow. He died in 1919. That's over 100 years ago.
Wow.
He founded 2 towns in Yoruba now. There's a town called Ayito State. That's where we took a picture of this statue. He was born originally in that neighborhood. And his people were highly destabilized by the slave trade, by the Dalmians. So one of the good things he did was that when he became prominent, he traced his route back to his original home. And the people were destabilized, and he founded a town for them so that they have a place to call their own. And he called the name of the place Ayeto. Ayeto is a Yoruba word that means the world has become peaceful again. And when you get to Ayeto, you see his statue. They see him as their hero who gave them a place to call home. But in Badagry, people see him as a slave trader and they are angry with him. One of the other things he did was that before his death, he was one of the people who was working with the abolitionists to stop the business because they realized its importance and they realized that look, we have to work with him to be able to stop this evil trade or whatever. In fact, some people don't like to call it business or trade because business, you transact business with another person. But this, you're not transacting. People were forcefully captured and you say you are selling them, you are doing business with human beings, so they don't call it trade. So they say slave trade. What do you mean? Remove the trade there. People were captured. People were forced from their homes, you know. So behind us are items used in Badagry in exchange for the humans, for the enslaved people. The value of an umbrella in Badagry was 40 human beings. You see one of the umbrella. The value of a bottle of alcohol was 10 human beings. In some places, 5. The value of a Dane gun was 40 human beings. Who bought the guns? The Europeans bought the guns. Show the power of the guns to the Africans and their interest. They don't even know how to get to the interland. And when the Europeans, maybe later when we get there, I'll tell you how it all started. How this trade started. What happened? Were Africans stupid enough that we're just going into the houses and selling each other? Was that the story? There's one storyline. Africans sold Africans. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. Because you need to go back to the advent of the trans-Saharan slave trade to really understand what is going on. Because before the Europeans ever came to West Africa, okay, for slave trading, they understudied the Arabs that were in Africa for over 1,400 years. So when they came, they didn't just come here to look at us or enjoy our culture. They came with a purpose. It was basically economic purpose. They understudied the Arabs. And what they did was that they perfected it. Unfortunately today, nobody is talking about the trans-Saharan slave trade. We talk more about the transatlantic slave trade. But do you know why we talk more about the transatlantic slave trade? We talk more about the descendants of those that were taken across the Atlantic Ocean became something. They have a voice. Those that were taken across the Saharan desert didn't become anything. They were killed. They were demoralized. They don't have a voice. There are black people in Iraq. There are black people in Iran, but you won't see them on Iranian national TV or Iraqi national TV. They've been relegated to the most minimal. They are not recognized as human beings. But those that were taken across the Atlantic Ocean used the white man's love against the white man. So they have a voice. They became abolitionists. They support abolitionists. They became activists. And they opened our eyes here in Africa. Because at the time, Africans were going to school in places like US and in England. And they noticed what was going on there. And they picked the idea and come back home as 100 human beings. If I have time, I'll take you to a compound where you see cannon guns. 100 human beings. The small cannon gun, 40 human beings. Items like the mirror, We also use ceramic bowl. We call it breakable plate. We also use in exchange for human beings. There are 5 plates inside that we use in exchange for human beings. Let's go in and see what a barracoon, what a slave cell look like.
Oh my goodness.
Come in. All the rooms in this compound looks like this. Where we are standing was referred to as the inspection room in the beginning. So the inner room over there is actually the slave cell, the barracoon. So when the Europeans come and they want to inspect the slaves, this was where they used to inspect them. They bring them out here, they inspect the eyes, the dentition, they hit them in the stomach to be sure they are strong enough to work on the plantations. But in the middle of the 19th century, there were so many of them around, so they were inspecting them in the compound. So they kept 40 here, another 40 in the inner room. Now the question is, were they standing? Were they sitting down? Were they lying down on each other? Nobody cares. Another name for a barracoon is a storehouse. Human beings were referred to as a storehouse. This was Ricky Abbas in 1895 when he became the ruler of Badagry. So the umbrella that is being carried over his head, this is the umbrella. And the value, can you try and lift it up?
Oh, this is heavy.
The reason why I asked you to carry it was for you to know how heavy it is. And an enslaved person will have to carry this over the head of the chief or the king for as long as he's outside. If he's outside for 20 minutes, you carry it for 20 minutes. If he's outside for 2 hours, you carry it for that long and you pray that your shoulder don't betray you. And if it falls on the king's head or on the chief's head, what happened to the enslaved?
Die.
Okay, we've done that time. How do you know what happens to them? It was as terrible as that. Haven't you noticed that in Africa, whenever the king or the chief is walking on the street, someone usually carry an umbrella over their head? The idea of the umbrella began during the slave trade. The first people who started it were actually the Arabs, and the Europeans borrowed the idea from them and sold it to the chiefs in West Africa, because the Arabs they began to trade with those in East Africa. Okay, those were the major people they began to trade it down to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam and the rest, Kenya, Zimbabwe, all those areas, Somalia, etc. They were taking people from those places. Okay, and even toward West Africa through places like Kano in Nigeria that leads down to the coast, because up to Tripoli, because there are certain products or items that were found at the port of Lagos or maybe in Badagry that the origin was actually from places like Tripoli. So how did they get to Tripoli? Of course, through the Arabs. They were already doing business in those places. So there's a write-up, a research work on Sherry Abbas. You can just check the title and Google it. There's some things that I may not be telling you. It was written by a researcher by the name of Anago, James Akimosho. He did that extensive research, and you can get more information. I told you Sherry Abbas could read and write. I made a copy of one of his handwriting.
Wow.
This is what his handwriting looks like. He even had his own stamp.
His handwriting was beautiful.
In this town, he was the only one that owns a chariot. A chariot, a horse pulling a wagon. These are remnants of his chariot. And the one over there used to be on the head of his horse. Okay, so I won't be talking much. Women together. They were not keeping the men and women together, not because they don't want them to touch each other. If they keep them together and they touch each other and the women become pregnant, it's a plus to the slave owners. Okay, but the reason why they were not keeping them together was for organization purpose. It makes their business easy. They know the number of men they have, they know the number of women they have, and they keep children with the women.
Okay.
Naturally, our mothers, women, take care of children. Now, in a place like this, imagine we have 40 women in here. There may be maybe 3, maybe 5 children with them. The question is, how many of the kids will have survived when that little window was the only opening for ventilation? Okay? No matter what I tell you about the slave trade in Badagry or in West Africa or anywhere, it's just an idea. It's not the real thing because it was really, really deep than what we can even imagine. What you're looking at? His lips was also locked. There are different type of mouth lock. This mouth lock was the most popular and it was the cheapest. But there are other type of mouth lock which I'll show you when we get inside. Yes. It's what your phone. So, this goes to Benin Republic. Badagry is a border town. So, on the water, from here to Port Novo, it's about 15 minutes. 40-15 minutes on the water. So when you cross that bridge, when you see that bridge, once you cross the bridge, you are going towards semi-border. Once you cross the bridge, you are going to the border. So from here, you can get to Lekki.
My worry.
Yeah, you.
No.
But you know, most of some guys that come, you know, even whites, when they come, especially when please take our picture. She's come. Or you want me to help you take a picture?
If they're gonna run after me, tell them drop a few coconuts for me to drink first. Then we can run.
Then you can run. This was in the night. It was dark. You know, when I talk about gross darkness, I mean real darkness that you can't see anything. Stark darkness. It was a very terrible time. So this structure you're looking at is supposed to be a gallery.
Yeah.
A gallery. Yeah. But it has not been completed. So the idea was for people, it should be maybe like 8 years. Hey, this exercise is for you guys to see me walk on.
I cannot explain. Can you imagine? I was right there. It was
And I go, what's going on? What happened? I was sweating. I said, the coconut trees were running after me. When they say the coconut trees were running after me, they all fell down.